Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. So today I'm going to be reviewing the final episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender Live Action show on Netflix. It's called episode 8, or it is episode 8, called Legends. I also forgot to mention that I really did enjoy Sokka and Yue's relationship and ship. They really had a close relationship. I feel like they did it really well. They gave them a lot of like ship scenes and a lot of moments and reasons to connect and stuff, so I really felt like they did it justice. So back to the rest of my review. So basically in this episode the siege begins. Really quick for reference, just in case you guys have not been following the series, my sister and I watched episodes 1 and 2 on the 22nd when the show dropped, and then yesterday the 23rd we watched episodes 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then today the 24th we've watched 7 and 8. So I've taken 3 days to watch the show. I'm reviewing it as soon as I watched it, so even if you guys are watching this like a month late, I promise you I reviewed them on time. It's just I have to release these once a week, so here we are. Anyways, so in this one the siege begins, and the fire ships and the fleet look amazing. I think it starts off with a fight scene where Aang is attacking the ship, and in this one it was Aang and Sokka and Katara together, rather than Aang taking out the ship. And again, I miss his water bending, and there was one scene in the original where he attacks a ship, does all this stuff, comes back exhausted after fighting several ships, and he's like, there's too many, I can't do this alone. So in this one, Katara and Sokka are with him, so I started to get worried that Sokka was going to be fighting instead of protecting Yue, but he ends up protecting Yue. And then Sokka and Yue the siege begins, so the fighting, the siege itself, the fireballs that come out, the water bending, like everything is really good. Katara has this moment with Master Pakku where she convinces him to let her and the other women fight, and the other women get involved. It was kind of a feminist moment. I was kind of like, ugh, rolling my eyes, but that could be just because I watched a lot of the recent Marvel stuff, and that's been throwing feminism in my face too much, and it's too much for me. But either way, it was a brief moment, and it's just kind of, you watch it and move on. So she's doing that, and then during the fight scene, Momo actually tries to help somebody and basically gets hurt, and we were not expecting it. And so that's the reason why Yue and Sokka go to the oasis, and they put him in the pool, and she uses her water bending Yue, because Yue can actually water bend. I forgot to mention that last episode. That's something they added to her character. And so she heals Momo, basically, which I didn't hate. It was not expected, so it was interesting. I did miss the original way that they got there, which was Yue leading Aang and Katara there, so Aang could go to the spirit world to kind of figure things out. But the point is, they all kind of get there. So Aang and Katara are trying to get there, and Zuko stops them. So Zuko, the whole plot line with him being snuck aboard Zhao's ship and then him sneaking through, they did actually do the moment where he's under the ice and he pushes on it and uses his fire to break through. It was really cool. Zuko's costume looked the exact same, and he still had like injuries from the latest explosion, so they kept all of that the same. It looked fantastic. So he gets there, and him and Katara have a fight. Aang goes to Sokka and Yue, while Zhao, so they added in that Zhao and his team have an airship already, which is supposed to only come about later, but they did keep the fact that the airship was made by the mechist who betrayed them, and in this one they added that Sokka kind of helped him figure it out, and Sokka tells Yue that he helped build it and whatnot. So they did keep, we were worried that they would not include the moon spirits, the moon and the ocean spirit arc thingy. But in this one, instead of the library, Zhao finds out from the fire sages and reading about the lore. So they did keep all the lore. They did keep that it was a white fish and a blue fish in the pond kind of circling each other. So basically that whole sequence was pretty much the same, except Aang was there, and Sokka and Yue were there. I don't remember if they were there in the original, but Zhao grabs the fish. There's a fight in this one, and there's actually more of a fight in this one, to where everybody's trying to stop Zhao, and for a moment I was worried that they were going to actually save the fish, the moon spirit, basically, and I was worried because that's not how it's supposed to go down. And so basically Zhao actually does end up stabbing it. It's a really dramatic moment, and they do the same thing where Aang steps into the pool, and I wasn't sure if they were just gonna have Aang, or if they were still gonna try to mimic like the fish water being he becomes, but they did that. But in this one they added where he gave up himself to the ocean spirit, and it's no longer Aang anymore, so I was wondering how they were going to do that. But big epic fight. I mean, it visually, I cannot describe to you how stunning this thing was. The fish with the water, the colors, in the animation, the colors are fantastic, but I've always wanted to see it live action. We're not going to talk about the movie, this shall not be named. But I've always wanted to see visually live action done really, really well, the coloring. So it's really like blue, with normally, and then when he kills the moon spirit, they actually did where the moon itself disappeared. So it was red when it was captured, and then when he stabs it, which turned everything red, so the coloring was really good, and then he stabs it and the moon like shatters and kind of like disappears. It was so cool, and everything goes gray except for when you see the light from Firebender, so that creates like a yellow light, but the rest, everything else is gray. So then when Aang does his thing and becomes the big giant fish ocean spirit, it has this really bright neon blue coloring that's only around him, so whenever he walks it reflects on it, kind of like the firebenders, the firelight reflecting on people. So Zuko and Iroh re-encounter each other because Katara loses her bending. The building collapses. Iroh goes to Zuko and tries to get him to escape. Zuko finally fights Zhao, which they are supposed to fight in the original, but they never did their Agni Kai, so I did miss that sequence in this series. But they didn't seem to have time. Zhao dies a different way. I didn't like that the moon spirit didn't kill Zhao, but it's kind of a minor thing. And then Katara is trying to give Aang a speech while the fish spirit Aang thing deals with all of the fleet. It's basically just like the original. It was fantastic to see live action. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the show, the animation, or the live action, spoiler alert. And jump to this time to avoid spoilers. Yue ends up giving her life, but she says that if she doesn't, because Aang does defeat the fleet, and she says that he'll just be the moon, the ocean spirit, just wandering the earth looking for its partner, and the world will be out of balance. And so she freezes Sokka's feet and he can't get to her. It's a very, very emotional scene. It's a really emotional scene when she gives her life. Visually, it's just beautiful. And then Sokka's emotions on it really sell it for me. Like, I almost cried, and I haven't really cried. Like, it's an emotional scene, but I've seen it a lot of times. So, and then because of that, like, Aang gets to return, and then they tie up all the loose ends, and Zuko and Iroh's dialogue as they're leaving. By the way, go ahead and resume here. So, spoiler is over with. So that kind of resolves everything, and Iroh and Zuko get on the boat, and they have their same dialogue where he's like, what do you want to do? And Zuko's like, I don't know, I'm tired. And Iroh tells him to rest, that a man needs his rest. So that, I liked that they kept that dialogue intact. Katara and Pakku talk, but they never did Katara's necklace being the old engagement necklace that Pakku gave to her gran. I missed that. I really wish they had it. Aang never water bent until like he became the spirit, like the spirit was using water, but that doesn't count. So he never did water bend, so I missed that. So to me, those were the two biggest issues I had with these, which again doesn't really impair, in this particular episode, it didn't impair my enjoyment of it. So they tied up loose ends. They had some nice moments between Sokka, Katara, and Aang at the end. Aang was devastated by the destruction, and it just wrapped up really nicely. And then the ending has where Fire Lord, he's being given reports about how the North didn't fall, and so it adds, again, a level of realism and maturity that this is a war. So as an emperor, having a loss like that would have affected him, and I like that we get to see that. And he says that it's not important, it was a distraction, and I was like, Omashu, right before the scene happened, I was like, Omashu fell, and it went ahead and did set that up. So it did actually show Bumi in chains and Omashu falling, and Azula was there. She finally convinced her dad to send her to do something useful. So I like that they set that up. I like the realism that he distracted them with this thing while he went and took this thing. And it was a really nice, realistic, political kind of war plot line thing that they added, while still leaving the ending on Azula, and now that she's out and about, ready to kind of be evil, which is how the original season ends anyway. So I really liked that. Overall, I missed Aang's water bending, and I missed the Pakku necklace with Katara's gran. Also, they did actually kill off some characters, and I really liked the way that they handled this. I really like visually, everything was wonderful. The fight scenes were fantastic. I mean, I cannot explain to you how wonderful everything looked. So even without Aang's waterbending and without the necklace thing with Pakku and Katara, I'm going to still give this 5 stars. This was a fantastic season finale. I really, really did enjoy it. And about Aang's waterbending, so I have a thought that obviously we all know that when they filmed this, it was several years ago. So the actors who play Aang and Sokka and Katara and Zuko, the younger ones, and Azula even, are all like 2 or 3 years older than what they were. Obviously, you can't do Sozin's Comet in a summer because the original series takes place over the course of a single summer. You can't have teenagers that are old, like 2 to 3 years older than what they're supposed to be, pretending to be like a 12-year-old. Like, it's a little obvious that they've aged. And so because of that, that's why they're not going to do Sozin's Comet happening in the course of a summer, although they did have a scene with Ozai talking to the Fire Sages that the comet is coming. After 100 years, it's close again. They didn't say when, which, again, they're leaving that kind of open in the air. So the thought is that if they do season 2, if it does get renewed for season 2, they're going to have to do a time jump. And so here's my theory, because hypothetically, if you keep it the same where Aang learns waterbending in this season, and then you have to do a time jump because, again, the actors are older, he should have already mastered waterbending and be moving on to earthbending. Obviously, we can't have that until season 2. So my thought, and I don't know if this is the reason why, this is just my opinion here, so they could have a completely different reason, but my thought is that they're going to skip that because it does imply that Katara is now going to teach him waterbending. I'm wondering if they get renewed for season 2, when they do the time jump, if they're already going to have him kind of finalizing his waterbending, and that way at the beginning of the season, the time jump, him and Katara have been working on waterbending this whole time, and now he's ready to start earthbending. And that could be why they didn't have him learn it in this season. Just my theory. Don't know if that's actually going to be true or not. So what did I think of the show overall? I feel like episode 4 was the weakest for me. I feel like even episode 3, with all of the things that were combined and how Jet and the Freedom Fighters could have been moved to a different episode, which I already talked about. I'll have it as a card here. I feel like even with all of those quick pacing, shoving everything into episode 3 issues, I feel like for me the weakest episode was episode 4. Changing the lovers back history and the story of Amashu to be lesbians really, really hurt me, my opinion anyway. And then Boomy and the whole situation with him and Aang didn't work for me. And then also the Lover's Cave with Katara and Sokka and Aang not being there. I kind of missed that. And again, Aang and Sokka not getting to meet Jet and that fight with Jet, I kind of missed that. But overall, like, to me, the whole show, let's look and see here. I did episodes 1 and 2. I rated them both 5 stars. So episode 3, I rated 4 stars. Episode 4, I rated 2 stars. Episode 5, I rated 3.5 stars. Episode 6, I rated 5 stars. And episode 7, I rated 4.5 stars. And then episode 8, I rated 5 stars. So overall, we have an average of... So if my online calculator thing is correct, because I'm not going to try to figure that out on my own, it's an average of 4.2 stars. My personal opinion overall for the whole show is probably 4.5 stars. And I would love to give it, because the acting, the world, the way visually, the way it looks, the way the costumes looked, the way that even the story and everything else, to me, it feels like a 5-star show. It is fantastic. It is beautiful. It is 1,000 times better than the movie that shall not be named. I loved it. It's just, they had a little bit of pacing issues and I missed a few things. But if you go into it not knowing the original or not trying to compare it or want to see aspects from the original, I think for me, that's probably why it's 4.5, is because I'm trying to be open-minded, but there is a part of me that did want to see certain parts from the original show replicated live action. So when I don't get to see that, it's disappointing. And when things are changed, that's disappointing. But overall, I have to be honest, it's 4.5 stars for me. It's still a really good, I love it. It's overall, my opinion is still positive. I did love and enjoy the show, and I'm definitely going to be watching it. Like, there is a reason to me. I do have a reason and see reasons why I would go back and rewatch it. One, I'm going to rewatch it with my husband, but also just for fun, because it is good. And I do like that there were new and changed things so that it's not just an exact copy of the original, because nothing's ever gonna stand up to the original. But overall, that's my thoughts. What are your thoughts on this final episode and the overall show as a whole? Please let me know in the comments below, especially whether you've watched the original or not. I'm eager to hear all of your guys' opinions. In the meantime, if you liked this video, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more writing and reading videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you enjoyed my review of this episode of the finale, then be sure to check out my review of the Ahsoka show, because I watched that whole show and I reviewed every episode for it. So here's the link to episode 1. Check it out. I give you all the details and my honest opinions of that show, so you don't want to miss it.